Good morning to you if you tuned in from 7 a.m. where Alfred Okante kick-started our morning for us. Voting has started in earnest, and we heard from the president, who spoke exclusively, of course, to Roland Walker. We also heard from one of the candidates who is described as the likely person to shake things up a little bit, Honorable Ken Ejapong. And so we'll be going into all those details. We'll give you all the information. I have my guest in the studio, and we'll delve into some of the very important matters that have come up as a result of the NPP Super Delegates Conference and how this eventually is going to affect the November 4 national elections for the NPP. So in the studios, I have Dr. Asa Santi. He's a political scientist from the University of Ghana. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning,
I hope you're
Bella.
well.
I'm very well. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much. And also we have Musa Dankwa. He's the Executive Director for Info Analytics. He's also a pollster. Good morning to you as well.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us.
Nice to be with you.
And just a few weeks ago, we saw some polls being conducted by Info Analytics on this particular matter, and of course, who is likely to lead in, the NPP flag bearer race. And so we'll get into that conversation. But Duke Opoku-Mensah is joining us. He's from the political desk here at Media Journal. And just a reminder that we're also live on 3FM 92.7. Join in the conversation. Let us know who you think your top 5 would be. But Duke will run us through the history of the NPP Super Delegates Conference. Good to have you join us as well this morning.
Great to be here, Bella.
Yes.
And great to see Dr. Asa Santi after a long time.
I know. After how many years?
So many years.
Ah.
Started in his class for the first time in 2011, JQB.
Okay.
The famous JQB at the University of Ghana, Lagos.
Well, the scoring doesn't stop there because he's probably going to be listening to you and giving you some tips here.
I need to ensure that my political history is on point.
Definitely.
Because my lecturer is here.
Don't worry, we trust you. We trust you. But let's go into the history of, the NPP and how the Super Delegates Conference even came about. This will be the second official one being held by the party. How did this start?
Right. So I'd like to give viewers and listeners a 360 picture of the whole thing. So let's go back as far back as 1947, 4th August, in Salt Pond, when the antecedent, the political organism today popularly referred to as the Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition, started. I mean, a group of businessmen and lawyers, and of course the masses, came together to form the UGCC, the United Gold Coast Convention. Had the likes of Pa Grant, that wealthy businessman from Sekondi, from the Western region, who bankrolled the process. Had the lawyers like Joseph Kwame Boachichi Dankwa, JB Dankwa. They had Akwege, they had Kwabna Sechi. They had all these lawyers who had just returned from the UK and, decided to shake things up a bit. They were not happy with the progress towards self-determination and independence, which is what they were seeking for the Gold Coasters at that point in time. So later on, Kwame Nkrumah was brought in. He was brought in to become the full-time general secretary of this political organization, the UGCC. Things happened. There was a breakup. Nkrumah formed his CPP, the Convention People's Party, and things began to hold up a bit. He eventually led the country to become, eventually became, the leader of the country when the country became independent. Okay. But there was this cat and mouse game because things were very heated in the First Republic. So Nkrumah caused a law to be passed called the Avoidance of Discrimination Act, which ensured that political parties were not formed on the basis of religion, tribe, or regionalism. Okay. Because at that point you had a lot of smaller political parties. You had the NLM from Ashanti, you had the Muslim Association Party, you had the Ganshifi Mokwe, you had the SG Anto and Modesto Sapalus, Anlo Youth Association and Togoland Congress and all of that. But the likes of Dankwa and came together, brought all of these groups together under what is known as the UP. Okay. There was also Buzia's Ghana Congress Party as the UP. Went through it. There was Nkrumah was overthrown. Then the Second Republic, we had the Progress Party. That's also the offshoot of the UGCC or the offshoot of the UP, led by Buzia, and we had Edward Akufo-Addo becoming the ceremonial president. Then something interesting happened in the Third Republic. This political party that essentially identifies as center-right, conservative, liberal, democratic, broke up into two pieces. There's an excellent exposition of how this happened in Appiah Menken's book called The River in the Sea, about how it happened. But of course, there was a split. PFP, Popular Front Party, led by that lawyer, Victor Usu, and the UNC, led by Pauli. So that's how come they broke up in the Third Republic. They decided to join forces and ranks again in the Fourth Republic, and it became the New Patriotic Party. Yeah. Interesting fact, It was not supposed to be called the New Patriotic Party.
What was
it was supposed to be called the National Patriotic Party.
Ah.
But the secretary at the time, the Venerable Bernardo Yao Darocha, BJ Darocha as it's popularly called, that doyen of conveyancing law, decided when he got to the time to register the party that if it's NDC is called National Democratic Congress, there's no way they will be called National Patriotic Party. They will be called the New Patriotic Party. On the spot, he decided to change the name and made it the New Patriotic Party, the NPP. Yeah. So that's about it.
Okay.
Now let's come to today.
Yes.
Right. There are 10 people contesting. They are the most important people. Not the most important people. They are the headliners. But the most important people are the delegates, 961. We'll come to them. So let's run through those who are contesting. First is Kennedy Ejapon. Now, Kennedy Ejapon, he calls himself the Asim Dompim gentleman. That's where, of course, obviously he was born. Product of Adesado College. Dropped out of Fordham University in the United States. He's a businessman, firebrand, media owner. And he credits himself as one of the top financiers of the party, speaks about how he donated thousands of dollars in the run-up to the 1992 election to support Edu Buaidis, speaks about how he went back to school because of NPP's quote-unquote book, Long Attitude, and that he wanted to be a minister when eventually the party won power, so he had to go back to school. So that's essentially about Kennedy Ejapon. His message, he says, patriotism, honesty, and dedication or discipline. That's PhD. Ken can do. That's what he's been trumpeting. He speaks about his record as an entrepreneur in creating jobs, obviously, and that's what he will bring to bear the party. He's also not shied away from criticizing the Kufuor administration. That's one of the things that he's been doing, and he's tipped to be one of the people who would go through. He's from the Central region. We've seen that he's just voted, and he's one of the people who has really shaking everything that's going on in relation to this election. So yeah, we're expecting quite a lot from Kennedy Ejapon today. The second man, Alan John Kojo-Triamating, the one who has he has contested the most, among all the pack. Now, Alan is from Ejuso and Elmina, right? He's from a very fine line of, political elite in the Ashanti region. Alan's father is the celebrated Dr. Alexander Ataya Triamating, the one who put together the Kumasi Cultural Center, an anthropologist, Oxford-trained anthropologist, the first senior prefect of Adesado College. That's Alan's father. Okay. So Alan was named after the headmaster of Adesado College when his father was there. That man is called Alan John Knight. So that's why he's called Alan John Kojo-Triamating. He went to Adesado College at the age of 9. Yeah, very young age. Then moved from Adesado to Achimota School. Studied law at the University of Ghana, economics as well. And then he went to school at the University of Minnesota. Was one of the youngest managers of Unilever. Rose through the ranks, worked with UNDP, worked with Empretech, and he's reputed as one of the, in the early 90s, he was voted as one of the young emerging leaders in the world by the New York Times. So he's got those credentials. So he's a lawyer, he's a management consultant, and he's an international civil servant. Once upon a time, he was the candidate of Africa for the WTO executive director position, even though he lost out on that. What's Alan's claim to fame in the New Patriotic Party? So in the run-up to the 1996 election, Alan actually wanted to contest to be leader of the party at the time. He was buoyed on by a group called the Young Executives Forum. Had the likes of Cecilia Dapa, had the likes of Kandapa, had the likes of Kabneje Ejapon. These were young professionals who put together their resources and felt that the NDC should not be in government. And their leader was Alan Kojo-Triamating. So, he was impressed upon not to contest in living up to the tradition of the NPP's conservative blood, that be in the queue and wait till it's your turn. So he didn't contest 96, he didn't contest 98. And he gave his support to President Kufuor. And in 2007, a lot of people say he was the establishment candidate then. And he went on, we all know how well he did in that election until he decided to step down. So Alan, this is his fourth time. He contested in 2007, 2010, 2014. This is his fourth time. That is Alan John Kojo-Triamating. Big Joe, Jogate, that's the third person. Jogate, MP, still MP for Esikado, Ketan. Jogate went to Fanspem School, trained at the University of Ghana School of Law, and he's a lawyer. Former Attorney General, former Minister for Railway Development in this country. This is the second time he'll be contesting. He contested he's not new to, just like Alan, he's not new to this Special Delegates Congress, this electoral college. He's been to them before. He managed to scale it in 2014, and he's hoping to do so again today. He's conducted some sort of a submarine campaign on the low, sparsely doing media engagements and media interviews and all of that. So that is Joe Gatti, former Attorney General and former Minister of Railways, and second Deputy Speaker, yes, at the time that we had Do Ajaho as the Speaker of Parliament. Fourth person, one whose candidature shocked a lot of people, Kojo Safuapoku. Kojo Safuapoku is from Kumasi. He's from the famous Opoku transport family in Kumasi, a family that's financed in the NPP from the days of Progress Party, United Party, and the rest. He's a product of Opoku High School, also a product of City University, London, University of London. He's an engineer, and he's also dabbled in business and music promotion. At the point in time, was part of the people who used to run shows in the UK, also promoted a lot of artists and all of that. But, and of course, now he's known famously for his analysis in the energy sector as an engineer, and as the founder of the Institute of Energy Policy and Research. And his decision to contest shocked quite a number of people, because people knew him more as a civil society person and not necessarily an NPP member hardcore to the extent of contesting to be flag bearer. But his message essentially has been about strengthening the party at its base, making the party much more viable, having a stronger party that can function well in government. The next person, Dr. Osu Efri-Akoto. That's also another NPP royalty. NPP royalty in the sense that he descends from Ochiame Bafo-Akoto, the Asante-Hines linguist, the one behind the NLM, organized the NLM. Also, for law students, the one behind the famous human rights locus classicus Ray Akoto case, where the Ghana School of Law always holds the Ray Akoto lecture. So it's his father who's behind that famous case, which involved him and Geoffrey Bing, Dr. Dankwa arguing for him, and Geoffrey Bing arguing for the government, Nkrumah's government at that point in time, because he was the Attorney General at the point in time. But this is Dr. Akoto. Dr. Akoto is also a product of Opoku High School. Interesting how two Opoku High former students, 4 and 5 years. Dr. Akoto went to University of Ghana as well. He's a proper agricultural economist, trained at the Cambridge University, Trinity Hall. That's where he was. And he is a former member of parliament for Kwadaso in the Ashanti region, former minister for food and agriculture. He cut his teeth as an agricultural professional with the International Coffee Organization. So that's where he worked right after he completed Cambridge with his PhD. So that's Dr. Osu Akoto. He's also advocating for a strong party, wants the party to be strong at its base, to be able to ensure that it delivers on its principles, its policies, and its ideas for the transformation of Ghana. That's Dr. Osu Efri-Akoto. So we've gone through 5. Out of the 5, 3 of them are from the Ashanti region. I will come back to that. So you have Alan, you have Kojo Poku, and you have Dr. Efri-Akoto. Okay. Number 6, Kwabna Ejeye Japan. Kalahari, his close friends call him. Kalahari does it, yes. So Kwabna Japan is also the son of, unfortunately, one of the martyrs of justice in our country, Justice Japan, who was murdered together with Justice Pokusa Akodie and Justice Kwanting Ado. In that day, that it's a blot on the judicial history of this country. But we'll move away from that. He himself has moved on from that and has become a strong person, product of Fanspim School, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He's an engineer, and he is a gentleman who actually has been campaigning also for a strong party. He's not shied away from taking shots at the current administration. Many say that has made him quite unpopular in this contest. But of course, we remember that he's also a former General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. He was also Press Secretary under the Indekufo administration. So that's Kwabna Japan. 7th person, Francis Adenimo. He's also not new to this Super Delegates or Special Delegates Congress. Adenimo is former MP of my constituency, Asante Mampong. He is a product of Navrongo Senior High School and Kumasi High School and Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. This is the 2nd time. He's also run a submarine campaign, sparsely doing all of that. Then you have Dr. Kwabna, Dr. Kofi Kunadu Apreku, and he's an economist, former MP for Ofenso, and he was Minister for Trade and Industry under Kufuor. And he's done quite a lot in the party. Recently, he was one of the commissioners at the ECOWAS Commission. He says he wasn't offered any position in the Akufo-Addo government. This also ran on the low quiet, but this is he's also a third-time contestant, having contested in '98, having contested previously, and this is third one.
Duke, I'll let you hold on to this one. I mean, let's go into the numbers for today quickly, and we'll come back to giving you the profiles of the rest of the delegates. But let's take a look at who are voting this morning, how many of them, and we'll look at the regional balance as well in terms of numbers for that. So in total, we're told that 961 delegates are voting this morning. Do you?
Yes, 961. And interesting how the votes are distributed. So Ashanti region has the highest number of votes. So in addition to having the highest number of contestants, they also have the highest number of votes. Ashanti has 119. Bono region has 38. Bono East has 33. Ahafo has 30. The Central region has 55. Eastern region has 81. That comes next after the Ashanti region. Yes, so that's the breakdown of the votes. When you go, if you go further, you would have other numbers as well. The Greater Accra region has 72 72 super delegates, as it were. The Northern region has 51. Savannah has 30. Northeast has 30. Upper East 36. Upper West 32. Volta region has 41. I mean, the highest number of concentration of votes will be at the national headquarters. Yes, so that's 204. You have that right there. That's a key ground. That's where all the special branches, the National Council members, Vice President, card-bearing ministers, all of them will be voting. So that's a key ground to watch. 204. Western North 33. Western 46. OT region 30. So that's by way of the breakdown in terms of the delegate numbers.
What are the key areas that we would be looking out for in terms of the regional votes and the numbers?
So Ashanti region is key. Ashanti is key because of the numbers. Has 190. So you have that lovely first part. Of course, the most when it comes to the regions, because you have this is a mixture of different categories of voters. Obviously, it's the key ground, as I mentioned, 204, and it's not a homogeneous group. You have National Council members. You have you have National Council members. You have ministers. You have special branches, you have the external branches, all of them voting here. So you have 204. Then Ashanti has 119. It also has the highest number of contestants, as I keep saying, 6 out of 10. Eastern region has 81. Greater Accra has 72. And the Central region has 55.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Duke, for these details. And maybe we can go into a bit of the history. We'll hold on to that. Let's come to Dr. Asante and, of course, Mr. Musa, and find out a lot more about the situation, because there's also a history to the Super Delegates Conference. And like you mentioned earlier, in 2007, where there were 17 delegates, there was a need to cut down on the numbers and also to control and curb the issue of vote buying as well. Dr. Asante, I'll come to you first of all, and Duke, thank you for this. We'll come to you shortly. But if you look at all the challenges that they were looking to address at the time when they had to now reform their constitution and bring some reforms into the party, do you think that we've seen those changes happen within the party?
Bella, thanks for the opportunity. Certainly so. We have seen great, changes, and it has improved the party and as well as its machinery. If you look at the initial process where we didn't have this super delegates and all that. There were all manner of problems that confronted the party. But today, they are breathing a sigh of relief because you have this a small body of people who are what constitute the Super Delegate Conference, who are going to elect the 5 people for the final showdown. If you go to the literature, you come across a certain gentleman called Hamilton. And Hamilton says that if you have electoral college, one of the things that it does is to make sure that it sieves out in terms of selection, the best material for the people, so as they can make an informed choice at the end of the day. Why is this so? Because that small group of people are people who are very much, in touch with those who are contesting, and they know them too well than leaving it to a general body of people to decide. So that body that the party introduced, for me, is a good thing, because it's going to sieve the real leaders of the party and then hand them over to another body, which is, of course, a little bit, bigger in terms of size than this one. So all in all, we have seen that it has worked. Some of the rules that they've also introduced have really gone a long way to regulate the conduct of the people.
I'll let you hold on. I'll let you hold on shortly. We're told that the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has arrived at the headquarters of the NPP to cast his vote. And so we're crossing over to Roland Walker now to give us some updates on that. Paparo. Roland, can you hear us? All right, so like I mentioned earlier, the Vice President, we're told, has arrived at the headquarters to cast his vote. And I believe that probably around this time he may have cast his vote. We're trying to connect with Roland Walker, who is on the grounds, to give us some updates. And of course, I'm sure he'll get to speak to him as well to pick his thoughts. We'll come back to that, but maybe Dr. Sasanti, we'll come back to you to finish up on your point.
So if you look at the rules that they've introduced, they've gone a long way to improve the conduct of the election and also guide the conduct of the people who take part in the election. If you have a whole lot of people taking part, you realize that issue of bribery, issue of inducement and all that. But when you have a small group of people, it's easy to monitor so as to have the best of behavior to ensure that the election moves on smoothly. These things are necessary. They are institutions, and without institution, no political system survives. So for me, it's a good thing.
All right, let's go back to Roland Walker. He's speaking to Anthony Kabu now. Let's hear what he has to say.
After way bet me reflected 4th November. All right.
All important question as to whether the way the ballots go today would affect the November 4 elections. He says, well, let's wait, and see how today goes, and then we can talk about, what happens on November 4. But that's also a very important question that many people have raised. I mean, we've heard from some key campaigners for the various delegates saying that how today's results go will go a long way to affect who eventually becomes a flag bearer for the NPP. What do you say to that?
Not necessarily the case, in the sense that today, look at the people who are going to be the delegates for this important exercise, a little over 900. Yeah. And then you look at the final one, there are a lot. So it tells you that as they are graduating to the last end, you have more people coming in here. So yes, you can be in here, you will top the chart, but at the end of the day, events can take a different turn when you get to your final destination. That is the November 4th one. So it's not necessarily the case. One of the reasons that also explain this point that I'm talking about is the fact that there is going to be a lot of dynamics. If you people see that, yes, what the perception that they have about a particular candidate they describe as an establishment candidate. If the status quo remains, then you are likely to have tactics such as alliances. And I have already, as a student of politics, put my ears on the ground, and people have started talking to people. And then if push comes to shove, you are likely to have alliances and all that, and that would change the whole political chemistry of the whole process. Okay. So we are in for an interesting contest, and then the final one in November. So it's not necessarily the case. And then right from here, you will see those who will fall out, their desire to support others, to fight those that they believe that they are the enemies of the open society, in quotes. Yeah. It's also going to change. So it's a whole mix of factors that are going to brought to the fore. And it will change everything. Well, so it's not necessarily the case that if you emerge tops at the end of the day, that is giving that the November 4th one, you are going to lead. It is not so. It's not so.
Mr. Musa Dankwa, I mean, I want to hear from you because Global Info Analytics has done some, study on this matter. And in fact, as it stands now, it says of course, the Global Info Analytics put out that Dr. Bawumia was going to lead the flag bearership race by some 33%, while we'll have Alan Chamantin with 30%, and then followed by, of course, Kennedy Japan. Give us some insight into that and how this could also, in the long run, have an effect on the Super Delegates Conference today.
All right. The numbers are a bit different if you look at it critically. We have the views of all voters, which means including NDC, NPP, floating voters, and the rest. And that's the numbers you have quoted.
Yeah.
Now, on that score, we see that Baume slightly is ahead among all voters in the last poll that we did. Now, if we come closer home to NPP delegates, which I think might be a proxy to what is happening today. Now, in that contest, the last survey we did, we had Dr. Mahmoud Baume on 34, almost 35% of support among NPP delegates. And Alan was on 28% at the time. Then you have Kennedy Japan on 12.5%. Then you look at another bunch of 15% saying that they are undecided, and 9% said they knew who they would vote for, they wouldn't tell us. Now, if you look at the rest of the pack, they were below 1%, all of them put together. Now, if you look at what is going to happen today, as Doc said, it has nothing to do with what happened in November.
Okay.
Now, these are a group of people who do not represent the actual NPP delegates who are going to vote on November 4th. But that group on November 4th is a very diverse group across all ranks and file of the party. And that sample, that population is quite huge. So you can't take this 961 to represent the views of those who are really going to make the decision on November 4th. What would happen today is that if the vice president does not win in a landslide, as people have been saying.
For today?
For today.
Okay.
Then that will be a blow to him in terms of the messaging.
Why him in particular?
Because he is the establishment candidate, quote unquote.
Okay.
And these people who are going to vote are largely part of the establishment. They are the cream of the cream and top of the party. So if there's any kind of disturbances in today's election, it could mean that there's a revolt within the establishment against the establishment within the party. So we expect that if the thought is right, it should win landslide. If it doesn't happen that way, then it simply means that the people are having a second thought, and that could demoralize some of his teams on the ground. But yet, the battle is still on November 4th. That's where it will be fought. And I don't believe this one would kill anybody's spirit going forward. At all? No.
Well, interesting they're saying landslide, because there's also another poll that was conducted. It was brought out on August 21. It was a survey by Outcomes International Ghana and Center for Sustainable African Development Initiatives in the UK. And they had projected that Dr. Bawumia would win the NPP Special Delegates Conference by 72%. So that's close to what you're saying, that if he does win by a landslide, then it won't be surprising. But if he doesn't, then that could be a major problem. What about the likes of Mr. Alan Kojotra-Manting and, of course, Honorable Kennedy Japan, who have also become like the main contenders in this competition?
Alan knew his challenge with the superdelegate. He knew he wasn't going to perform so well among them because of who they are.
When you say who they are, what exactly do you mean?
These are government appointees and then high-level party executives who normally wine and dine with the government machinery. And naturally, Alan may do well, but he's not going to do as well as he would have loved to if they were ordinary party members. So we expect those delegates to really throw their hats for the vice president because of who he is and because of the work he does and how he interacts with these people regularly compared to other candidates. Kennedy Japan, by virtue of who he is, his stature in the party and what he's done in the party is what probably will put him there. Because in terms of his interaction with these people, is probably not as much. Because he's not a national party executive that will go around meeting these people before this contest. And then also as a minister, like Alan and other people, they will meet these people when they are performing their duties as ministers. Kennedy wouldn't. So he will be there because of who he is and probably because he's too big to be left out.
Because he's too big and not because of his messaging, not because he has a better rapport with his
message he has is much more strong in the grassroots than within the superdelegate.
Okay.
He resonates well across the country in terms of what message he's sending across. And that one is really catching eye. But I don't think that message is very popular among the top brass of the party and the government appointees, not at all.
Dr. Sasansi, do you agree to this?
I have a different view. Different view in the sense that if you look at Kennedy Japan, he cut across all the shades and opinions within the party. He's among the top brass. He also, relates very well with the rank and file, and he appeals to the youth, who are the main drivers at the end of the day within the party. So he cuts across all the sectors of the NPP political system. I believe that, at this point in time, what the party needs is that they want a candidate who is very much disciplined. Some people have attributed the poor performance of this government to indiscipline, financial indiscipline. And we have seen in how they've mismanaged the economy, always want to hide behind the excuse of what? Russia-Ukraine crisis. That I admit, as a student of politics, I do, that those issues within the international system had, effect on our economy. But there were things that also government did not do right, and that also contributed effectively towards where we are today. So you need somebody who will ensure that whatever we generate here in terms of resources is put into effective use. So at this point in time, delegates are going to look for a candidate like that. Kennedy Ejapong is one of such candidates.
Okay.
Alan Chirmateng, yes, it's close to that, but Bwache Jakon is also an important variable in this type of equation. Yes, we need somebody who is also what? Who is bold and has the tenacity to withstand all manner of pressure. And I can tell you without fear of contradiction that Bwache Jakon stands tall in this regard. We have seen instances where he even would not grant certain requests of president when he sent people to him and when he was in the ministry and all that. You can see that, attitude in the likes of what? Alan Chirmateng, in the likes of, Bwache Jakon, then Kennedy Ejapong, and then others within the party. Kwabreje Ejapong.
I was going to ask about him because he's also, grounded his campaign around discipline.
Yes.
And so I was surprised that his name didn't pop up when you're talking about
He's one of the 5 that I have put down.
Okay.
Who will cross the Rubicon to the final stage.
One of the top 5.
Yes.
So give us your top 5 at this moment.
My top 5 will be Bwache Jakon, Alan Chirmateng, Kennedy Ejapong, Kwabene Ejapong, Bawumia.
Okay.
That's 5. Not in a special order, but this are people who I believe that will gain the mandate of the people to be able to gravitate to the last stage, which is the finals of finals, November 4. Why am I saying this? If you look at these gentlemen, I must also admit that the remaining 5 also are material worth considering. But I believe that for this context, these people have more of the things that the people require than they have.
Okay.
And it's on this basis that I believe that this 5 will definitely make it to the final stage. If you look at Bawumia, for instance, there is a whole lot of talk about him that he's not a good economist and all that. I disagree, and I disagree vehemently.
Why so?
We can play politics with it and all that, but from where I come from or where I sit, he's a fine economist. There's no doubt about that. As to how we have arrived here as being the chairman of economic management team and being part and parcel of this government and where the economy is, he is the one to explain, not me. Yes, because I believe that there is something that maybe is militating against what he's capable of doing. But aside that,
which could be what exactly? Because he's the chairman.
Yes, you can.
What possible factors could make it more difficult for him to operate as the chairman of the management
when we
committee?
talk about public policy,
Which is
every economic policy is a public policy, and public policy emanates from the executive, the president. It is approved by what? Cabinet, and then it goes through what? The economic management team and the ministry which would implement it. Yeah, the vice president, what can you do? You will suggest something, all right, but remember what comes to his desk comes from what? The president and cabinet. and then it comes to management. The management will look at it, add and subtract, and it gets to what? The Ministry for Implementation. All right. So you realize that it has a very little role to play in here. You suggest something, but whatever you suggest should not be at variance with the dreams and aspirations of the president. Otherwise, the policy is defeated and all that. So there could be those factors. It could also be that he suggests a number of things and nobody will listen to that. That we have seen in Ghanaian politics. It's not new. All right. So these are a few things that on top of my head I can bring to the fore. But that aside, you also realize that the man has come out with a lot of innovative programs. There's no doubt about that. You're talking about issue of electronic, things that he has introduced. E-what. It has really improved the fortunes of this party. There's no doubt about that. Has it? Yes, it has.
You're not concerned about what people are saying on the ground, that even though some of these things have been introduced, they really haven't fixed the problem?
Yes, but we have take, for instance, issue of these, electronic services and all that. Government has raked in a lot of resources in there, all right? But the issue is that how effective have they put the resources is another question, $1 million question for them. Are you with me? So, yes, you have also seen him in other, come out with other innovative programs and all that. So, Bawumia, yes, he has what it takes to be able to lead the party. But what will go against him, one of the things is that people see him as an establishment candidate. Remember that militated against Alan in 2007, where people believed that a vote for Alan was going to be a vote for President Kufuor, who will be on pension at that time. The same thing is going to be played out here, that people will look at him and say that once you're an establishment candidate, a vote for you is a vote for Nana Akufo-Addo, who is going to on pension 2025, January 8th, that about. All right. So these are some of the things. But I believe that his party has a better team to be able to go around these things. Because in political communication, whenever you are going for campaign, it's not the message that you are going to churn out, but you are looking at what your opponent will say about you, and then the ideas that you also will bring to counter that makes it an effective political campaign. And I'm sure those who are in the campaign team have what it takes to be able to offer these services for him. Okay. Look at the issue, this person, Mr. Boakye Jakon. Jakon, people have very little knowledge of his contribution towards the party, but I can say without fear of contradiction, as a student of politics, somebody who is close to the party, from where I said that he has contributed immensely. Okay. There was at a point in time that they needed finances from the party. He was, paying members within the party headquarters. And when he was working as a deputy CEO of the Bank of New York, he did a lot for the party from there. And the party members will always remember this. And remember that when we are dealing with elections of this nature, they always count on people who in difficult times have really helped the party. Okay.
Well, let me just quickly announce that there seemed to be some misunderstanding in the Upper West region. We're told that Kennedy Japong is saying that his agent has been sacked. And so we'll be crossing over to George shortly so he can give us the update on this matter. In actual fact, let's take a look at Kennedy fuming at this point. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
This country, President Akufo-Addo, member will show down. Vice President, member will show down. So, Mama chasing me agent. I'm not going to shut them. What do you embassy? What do you embassy? Yes, me challenge President Akufo-Addo anytime. Show down in this country. President Akufo-Addo, member will show down. Vice President, member will show down. So, Mama chasing me agent. I'm not going to shut them. What do you embassy? What do you embassy? Yes, me challenge President Akufo-Addo anytime.
And that is Honorable Kennedy Ejapon. He's actually number 1 on the ballot sheet, and he's basically saying that, he's going to give the president and the vice president a showdown because his agent has been chased into a room. I mean, we're hoping that some of these issues will not come up. But Dr. Damkwa, let me come to you because I see you smiling about this. I'm not sure.
I wasn't smiling. I was just giggling.
Oh, you are giggling. Okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you are taking this, but like I said, we're hoping that things like this would not come up. But already, about 2 hours into the voting, and we're hearing things like this.
It's very unfortunate. I mean, coming from Kennedy Ejapon, very formidable and very vocal, and you can hear what he was saying. I just hope that they can resolve it so that we'll have peaceful election at the end of the day. You don't want to give people excuse that they have been unfairly treated in this contest, and I think it's not necessary at this stage.
But there have already been allegations here and there about camping of some delegates. I heard from one of the senior members of the team saying that there's really no need to camp these delegates because these are high-ranking profile people. They do not need the monies of these delegates or, some favors in order to cast their vote for them or against them. But for some reason, especially from Honorable Kennedy Ejapon camp, they keep reiterating that some members of, the voting, the delegates have been camped, and this could go against them.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if, at this stage, this is not the main contest, really. I would expect you to do a very decent campaign, just your message out why you should be the candidate for the NPP and why not that person or that person. I think that should have been the approach. Using money in this kind of campaign at this level really is unnecessary. For me, if we haven't learned anything at all, we should look at it as enough and learn lessons from it and then make sure that we are being decent. These guys are top-ranked party executives and appointees. Camping them absolutely uncalled for, if that is the case.
But the whole idea of re-engineering the Constitution to introduce a Super Delegates Conference, we're told one of them was because of, vote buying. It was meant to curb it, which is why I asked the earlier question that if we're coming back to another Super Delegates Conference and these allegations are coming up, have we really resolved the matters within the party?
It's still going to persist because us and money is, it's something else. Elsewhere, where you have a large pool of contestants, there will be a poll that will tell where each person is in the poll. And they naturally fizzle out because maybe the poll numbers doesn't give them any hope of surviving. But in this case, in this country, there's no poll to guide them that, this is where you are. And then look, from this number, I don't think it's worth pursuing. So people are just doing this on the blind side. They're not actually sure where their support is. So they think they can do something, so they keep going. It's a very fine move that they brought in terms of keeping the number to 5. But I think a lot more thought should go into it after this super delegate and see what changes could be made to it and then make sure that, it's fit for purpose. It was done maybe about 10 years ago and needs to be refined, probably based on new evidence of what is happening now.
Let's take a look at, some of these delegates or some of these actually contestants, candidates who took part in the Super Delegates Conference previously. How did their performance in the Super Delegates Conference go a long way to affect how they performed even in the national flag bearership elections?
If you look at the first Super Delegate Conference that was held in 2012 or 2014,
yes.
Those who took part in that election are completely different from those who are voting today, mostly. They have been new national executives. So they are not the same demographic that we are looking at. So things would have moved. And the fact that you did well last time doesn't mean that you will do well this time around. You look at people who took part was Delegate, Apraku, and Adainimo. Right. And for me, on the top 5, Delegate is there, Adainimo is not there.
Your top 5, Delegate is there?
Yes, my top 5, Delegate is there.
Okay.
And Afriya Koto is there as my top 5.
Okay, give us your top 5 first before
my top 5, I'm looking at Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Alan Chirematin, Kennedy Ejapon, Afriya Koto, and Delegate.
Is this in order of how you think the votes will...
the first 3 will be in that order. If the order changes, I'll be very shocked. Because from the poll we did of NPP delegate, that is the same order we've seen.
Okay. But if Afriya Koto is going to be in there, Delegate would be in there.
That's what our initial poll says. And our analysis based on the interaction with government machinery, these people have better chance of interacting with the people who are going to vote today than the rest of the pack. And they haven't run a campaign that is entirely anti-establishment. You remember the delegates who are going to vote today are those who are enjoying from the current government. And if you run a rebellion campaign against them,
It could go against you.
Yes, it will go against you. Because they are not the general party people who may be happy with what else people are saying about what is going on wrong. But these guys are people who are benefiting from the current system. So if you run a rebellion campaign in that kind of group, it will backfire.
Then how is Honorable Kennedy Japan still in there?
That's what I mentioned, that he is too big to be left out.
Ah, that's the only reason why he's going to be in there.
I think, and also he's done things in the party. So that's why he's quite popular, much more popular in the party rank and file than in the super delegate. But super delegate, they will keep him there because there won't be peace.
If he doesn't make it, there won't be peace.
No, there won't be peace.
Really? That's quite emphatic, you say.
No, I think, no, strategically he must be there, because you see, you must be able to have kind of unity at the end of the whole contest. That nobody should be given excuse to have any reason not to support the winning candidate. And if you treat Kennedy Japan in a way that he feels he's been fairly, unfairly treated, and he explodes, the sky will be the limit.
You were talking about, of course, and I asked you earlier that for those who took part in it, how do you think, based on how they fared in the national elections, how do you think this will go? You're saying that the demographics has changed completely, and so things might be different.
Yes.
So whatever happens today, like you said earlier, will not affect what happens on November 4th at all.
Absolutely. Just that it will give some people some bragging right, just for the optics. And for example, if His Excellency does very well, extremely well, it will give him the optics and the bragging right. But also it will go to cement the belief that he is the establishment candidate.
Which some have denied.
Well, but it will show. I mean, you can deny, but you know in politics you deny. Even when the truth is there, people deny it. But so when he wins on that scale of landslide, it goes to affirm the belief that he is the establishment candidate. But if he doesn't too, it could be a problem. So he is in a very hard place.
What would you say are some of the unique strengths and weaknesses of some of these delegates, or candidates more like? Let me not even interchange the words. So the candidates, based on their strengths and weaknesses, that would also inure to their benefit.
For the vice president, I mean, he's served the party very well, no doubt about it. He's played a very pivotal role in where the party has been from 2012 all the way till today. And he's very hardworking. The party organizes that. And also, I think it's a nice guy, nice person. I know him personally.
Okay.
Very nice person to work with. That is his strength. But he has a lot of baggage that is really tied to the government at this stage. And that has been his biggest problem. Now, how he performs today, and in fact, you could see his performance differ depending upon which region that comes through.
Okay.
Where Naro is very strong, he will do very well because he is tied with to the hip with the president. Where Naro is not very well popular, he will dip.
Okay.
That I think pattern would happen.
So areas like what, the Eastern region,
Yeah,
will do well?
Will do well. Even Eastern region is divided into a number of blocks. The Abokwa area, he will do very well.
Okay.
When you leave the Abokwa area and come to other part of Eastern region, the numbers changes. It becomes Alan and Kennedy. So it's not like one big color across Eastern. It differs based on the constituencies that you're looking at.
What about the Ashanti region, which has the highest?
Ashanti region will be split. In fact,
Okay.
Kennedy and Alan are kind of spoiling themselves there. They are kind of encroaching on each other's turf. And if they don't take Baumia could win Ashanti region by a whisker.
Well, please hold on for me. George is on standby to speak to us, to give us some more insight into that earlier tape we played where Honorable Kennedy Japan was fuming over some allegations concerning one of his agents. George, thank you for joining us. Can you update us what exactly is happening? Why is Honorable Kennedy Japan fuming over that allegation?
Well, I'm coming to you live from the University of Cape Coast, and this is the central regional venue for the NPP Special Delegates Congress. And the Special Delegates are expected to cast their votes, and one of the aspirants has cast his vote. And so after 20 minutes after casting his vote, he was so furious, and he says an agent of his in the Upper West region was attacked and driven away from the venue, and has been chased towards the hotel. So there's an allegation that if we have asked whether that is true, we are yet to confirm, and the extent of verification of that very important. But I must say it's a peaceful, exercise here. And even the aspirant during the one has said that the wishes that the experience, the come, I must say, the peace that has been experienced here should be replicated in the other, 16 regions, so that in entirety, this very whole, conference would not be marred with any sort of violence. And also I spoke to former gender minister Cynthia Morrison, and she said she also sees this to be a peaceful election, and that this is the victory of the NPP. This is the start of the victory of the NPP come the 2029 elections. And she was really worried about the fact that some of the colleagues, openly declared their support to some of the aspirants. She says that is not necessary. And if it was necessary, there was no need for them to vote. But I just declared the winner on social media or even on television. So it's not advisable for the colleagues to come out to declare. But at the end of the day, the unity that they deserve to break the eight and give their support to any candidate that comes out as the flag bearer coming back.
I see. Well, thank you so much. And has Honorable Candidate Japan left? Because I see some vehicles leaving the venue at the moment.
Yes, the fire service on standby.
Okay.
Fire national service. Should there be any, untoward incident regarding fire, I'm sure they'll be there to give prompt.
Okay. I was asking about Honorable Candidate Japan if he's still on the premises or has left. Okay, unfortunately, he cannot hear us clearly, but that's George from the University of Cape Coast giving us some updates on the matter, and we'll keep borrowing into it to find out exactly what the real situation is and what can be done. But Mr. Musadam, I'm coming back to you to land on the uniqueness of these candidates.
Yes, so Bawumia, certainly Vice President gives him a huge advantage in terms of who he is, popularity, access to these delegates through his normal work. And then you come to Alan. Alan has been part of the for government for some time, Kufuor's time, to Nanado's time. He just resigned last January or so. Yeah. So he would have otherwise have interaction with these people, either at the party executives, regional or national levels, during his work as a minister. So they would have probably encountered him one-on-one before. So he has better chance with these guys. Then you come to Kennedy. Kennedy would not have interaction with these people because of the nature of his work. Member of Parliament, a businessman. But he is too big elephant in the room not to let him be part of the race. Okay. And with regard to Akoto Afriye, it's the same logic I'm employing here. Former Minister of Agriculture for 6 years. He's been to every region in this country as part of his work. When he goes there, party executives meet him. When he goes to constituency, they meet him. So he would have interaction with them. So is Joe Gatti. On the same basis, former Kufuor Minister, Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Deputy Speaker, Railway Development Minister. So those people are the ones that have regular contact with some of these people who are going to vote. Okay. And it's on that basis, and also just to post our poll on top of this, which shows the same order. That's why I'm saying this. I haven't done any poll on this super delegate, but I'm saying that from the analysis intelligence we have picked, this is what we believe could be the true situation. Dr.
Sasanti, so Mr. Jogate did not make it onto your list, neither did Dr. Afriye Akoto, even though he's made it onto Mr. Musa's Dankwa's list. What are your reasons why those two may not make it into the top 5?
Yes, and I must also say here that I have not gone to the field to pick any data to do this, but what I'm doing is born out of qualitative analysis. Okay. Right. If you take Dr. Afriye Akoto, for instance, he's a gentleman who has served his country well. He has served his party well. But you realize that if you put your ears on the ground, he was doing well in the ministry, but the party, getting closer to the party, all right, you don't hear his name that much. But this type of contest, you need to have a closer relationship with those who are going to elect you, right? You need to have also done something that remain indelible in their minds, all right? And if you look at all these things, you realize that Dr. Akoto doesn't meet the threshold relative to what we are talking about. Okay. It is true that he comes from a very strong family, Bafwa Koto's son and the rest of them. But going over days of NLM politics and all that, changes have occurred within the party system. And now there are new things. If you look at his message, even though the bulk of his message centers on agriculture, which is a good thing, but I am looking at it from another perspective, that is that the only problem that we have in this country, that everything can be done through what? Agriculture.
Yeah.
There are other problems that we have that confront us, like political problems, economic problems, social problems, and of course, we can leave out what? Agriculture. So he has not diversified his message to really resonate with people who are really looking for that political John the Baptist who will be able to see things ahead of time and direct the party. Remember that this government is in crisis in the sense that look at the economy now. Research has shown that if you are looking for the factors that influence voter choices, the economy is number one, right? So I would have loved the former minister to be able to chip in some ideas about how he will be able to turn the country's economy around. Because like it or take it or leave it, we are in a very difficult economic situation, and any government or any aspirant must be able to address his mind to some of the economic challenges that we have.
All right.
So this is something that is missing. And then remember, the delegates are looking for people.
I just want you to hold on. Sorry to cut you. But Godwin Asidiba is on standby from the Western region to update us on how voting is going there. Well, Eastern region, pardon me. Godwin, thank you for joining us as well. What can you report?
All right, Bella. So it's been a calm moment here at the Koforidua Technical School, where we know that the New Patriotic Party is hosting its crucial delegate conference. We know this event marks a pivotal moment for the party's journey towards the 2024 elections, and amidst the charged atmosphere of the delegate conference here at the Koforidua Technical secondary school, a sudden incident actually happened here, which sparked a moment of chaos. The tensions fled as a ballot sheet fell on the ground, prompting a flurry of reactions from some delegates present, including David Ansopoku, who is the MP for the Imprayesu constituency. But the party officials and organizers were quickly to move and ensure that there were the issues were resolved. So at the moment, as you can clearly see, the calm has been installed here. And as the sun begins to set on this historic day for the NPP, the atmosphere here is palpable with anticipation from a lot of the delegates here. I've been speaking with delegates throughout the day, and there's been a unanimous sense of purpose. They express their commitment to selecting a candidate who embodies the party's core values and resonates with the electorates and brings a fresh perspective to Ghana's political landscape. So for some of the delegates that I have been speaking to here include Seth Ejeba, who is the former MP for Nkoko constituency. I've also been speaking to Osei Bonsuamwa, who is the MP for Ekuapem South, David Ansa Opoku, MP from Imprayesu constituency, Boachi Ejaku, who is also the NPP presidential aspirant, who actually expressed confidence on being part of the five that they are looking at voting for to be selected for the final voting. And we know that voting has officially begun. We are expecting 81 delegates to vote here in the Eastern region at the Koforidua Sectec Senior High School, and security measures have been significantly heightened at the voting premises through to the entrance inside to the premises as well. We know that the atmosphere is characterized by a strong presence of security personnel, underscoring the importance of maintaining order and ensuring a smooth voting process. Well, so we will continue to give you updates as it unfolds here at the Koforidua Sectec School, Bella.
All right.
But before I go, Information Minister Kojo Okonkoma has just arrived, and I'm sure he should be going in to cast his ballot soon. But we'll get to speak to him and also get to know what he makes of this particular, voting process and update subsequently.
Well, we're looking forward to that, Godwin Asiliba. Thank you so much for the update. He's coming to us from the Eastern region, where we're told the information minister has just arrived and will be casting his ballot. Fingers crossed we'll get to speak to him and bring you the updates on that. But Dr. Sasante, I wanted to go into the Jogate weaknesses as well and why he would not make it.
Yeah, Dr. Kutu first.
Well,
yes,
I thought you had wrapped up with him.
Yes.
Okay.
There is something little I want to add. If you look at all the good things that Dr. Kutu has done, which will really influence the voters to vote for him, there are things that, one of the things that is going to affect him negatively, even though that is not his fault, is that he's seen as a friend of the president. And that if the establishment candidate, phenomenon is anything to go by, people will not trust him. They will believe that a vote for Dr. Kutu will be a vote for, by extension, to the president. All right? That if push comes to shove, I believe that even if there are alliances, I believe that if what we are saying is true, what we are hearing is true, that there is an establishment candidate, I believe strongly that if there is a need for alliance, he will opt out and join the Bawumia camp.
Which is why they will not vote for him, because they'll feel like they're wasting the votes?
Yeah, they would think that, obviously we'll go and join forces with Bawumia, so you will not. If you continue, if that is true, and he stays within even the alliance bloc, some people may see him as a mole who will be in there and be sending messages to the Bawumia camp. Yes, there are a whole lot of dynamics in there. Okay. So, but he's a fine gentleman. He has served his country well and all that. Within the party, there is something that is missing that really the party is looking for. Remember, at this point in time, the party is looking for somebody who is firm and who can put his foot down. And that one of the problems of Nana Akufo-Addo government is that he has not been firm, right? He has really put emphasis on loyalty. People who are loyal to him are people he engages and people who have walked the talk of the president or the government. But firm on the ground, no. So at this point in time, they want people with that quality, and Dr. Kutu doesn't fit into that type of description.
Is that what they're really looking out for? Because they're also talking about strategy.
Yeah, strategy
Which
will
is
come.
why some of them are throwing their support behind the likes of Dr. Bawumia. Those who are looking for some form of change are saying that, well, we're going with Alan as well. I've not come across anyone who has said that we're looking for fairness necessarily.
There are a whole lot of things, but if you look at why are we in this crisis, they will tell you, for one thing about the president is that he believes in loyalty. But remember, you look for what? Competence first before loyalty.
Okay.
Somebody can be so loyal to you, all right, but he will be what? The worst incompetent person you can see. Are you with me? Right. We need somebody who will be financially what? Disciplined. And that is not to say that the president is not financially disciplined, but we are saying that the people who are managing the offices on his behalf, all right, look at the mess we'll find ourselves. Have we been able to ensure prudence in terms of our financial management? Look at the Auditor General report. Look at all the financial dealings of this country. We realize that there's a problem here. It tells you that there's something wrong. So you need somebody who can be able to generate the resources. You'll be firm and apply it effectively.
But the top three have been members of this same government. That is your
top three.
No. I'm not saying my top three, but of course, if you look at even the two of you, and of course, the names that we have mentioned, and across the board, many have said that the likely top three would be Dr. Bawumia, Mr. Alan Kojo Chamanting, and also Honorable Kennedy Japan. These are people who have said, and at least one of them still serves under President Akufo-Addo's administration. So whatever negativity comes to President Akufo-Addo also affects them. And many have asked the question that you were in that government, you couldn't really make any significant change to better the lives of people. What makes you think that this time around, if you decide to come out as your own, people would vote for you? Yeah,
that's why I disagree with you with the top three. I do not believe in that theory.
Okay.
All right, because at this point in time, it's inconsequential. All that you need to be part of what? That selection of 5. So the top 3, top 4 doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Where you move from is where it's important, the final lap. Just be part of what? This team, and then get to the final this thing. But the top 3 that people are talking about, yes, the issue you talk about is a reality that you've been in the government. What is it under your sleeve that you could not share with the government? For which reason you believe that today, when you are on your own, you'll be able to do it better? Yeah. That's a $1 million question that awaits them. And that is why the people are looking for what? Changes. And the changes is that they need somebody who will be financially disciplined.
Okay.
To be able to ensure. We generate a lot of resources here, but the way we manage them is a problem. Look at resources that we get from the little things that we do in this country, and then we really call the IMF to come in to go and get $3 billion. Transparency International, a GII, has told us that every year we lose $3 billion through corruption. If we are able to plug corruption alone, we'll be able to deal with this problem. Look at the corruption report against this government. The government has not done well in terms of it fights against corruption. Transparency International report is there for everybody to see, and it's clear. Auditor General report is there for everybody to see. Okay. So you need somebody who will look at the evils of this regime, such as financial indiscipline, the issue of corruption, and then how to ensure effective utilization of state resources. Okay. You are building cathedral. Something, yes, it's a good project, but it is coming at the wrong time, where people are really suffering to make ends meet. You are building cathedral. Where's the cathedral now?
Okay.
A white elephant.
Well, let's go to the Ashanti region. The weather is not exactly favoring the voting today, as we're told that it's raining cats and dogs. And there's some tension brewing within the region as well. Evans Inkom will give us all the updates on that. Evans, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bella. So as you can see, really here to nail around the spot. The weather is not very favorable to this particular exercise. It has been raining heavily here. Intermittently, it does a bit, but it just goes up. So what is happening now is that the exercise has halted briefly because of the fact that some of the materials are not water friendly. So especially the ballot papers and all of that. So the process has halted briefly, waiting for the rains to subside a bit so they can continue with the process. So it's pretty calm here.
Well, very calm, but unfortunately there rains. Have there been any significant individuals who have come in to cast their ballots that you can update us on?
Some members of parliament that have been here to cast their ballots. For instance, not too long ago, the Minister of Education, Dr. Osei was here to cast his ballot, but he came at the wrong time, the time that tension was boiling here because the regional youth organizer had publicly advertised his cast ballot, which contravenes the very regulation that was set before this particular exercise. But the police, were swift to intervene to at least avert some level of escalation. Nonetheless, there were some fracas here and there, but they were able to douse any flames. Okay. So now the relatively calm as far as this particular place is concerned.
What exactly caused the tension?
Well, he actually advertised his cast ballots, and of course, some of the polling agents felt that no, that contravenes the very regulation that was set by the election committee, and no other person than the regional youth organizer, Sapo Patrick Raphael. Yeah. But like I said, the police was able to come in to douse any escalations.
As it's still raining, are there conversations to move the voting center to another place?
Well, it doesn't look like, but even if they will have to do that, I don't think that is going to be much of a problem because just a few seconds you enter the law school auditorium, and that place is quite spacious for exercise of such nature. They have opted to do it outside. But in an event that the rains will not subside, they will have to work within the framework of time. Then they will have to move into the law auditorium. That shouldn't be a difficult decision to make.
I see. Well, Ivan Senkum, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll come back to you again for some more updates on that. He's speaking to us from the Ashanti region. It is raining heavily, and well, a few tensions here and there, but he says that has been doused at the moment. So we're grateful for that. But Dr. Sasante, so going straight into Joe Gate and his issues, and then I'll go to Dr. Musa.
Yeah, Joe Gate has been a fine gentleman. He has served his party well, and he has also contributed his quota. But you realize that he's not very much known within the rank and file of the party. Yes, because of the position that he held. Top minister. Remember, during Kufuor's time, he was Attorney General, a big portfolio that you will not be able to find the chance to relate with the rank and file of the party. That those in politics, the position that you occupy, if you don't take care, can also be a disadvantage for you, because you will not even have the time. You may want to delegate authority to some people, but every delegation needs supervision, and your main job will not even give you the chance to be able to do that. Right. He, as an attorney, when he was Attorney General, he wouldn't have much time to be able to relate to the party rank and file, party foot soldiers, and the rest of them. Look at when he became Minister for Railway and all that. So you realize that his attachment to the party, yes, at the top it will be there. Okay. But among the rank and file, what are his messages that he's churning around? We haven't seen, because the critical issues that we are looking at today, I've not heard him talk about them. Issue of competence. Okay. It's critical. Issue of discipline. All right. Loyalty is there. The party people, they are looking for somebody who is loyal. But we want ideas. What are the ideas he has thrown? He has thrown in a few of these things, but these are some of the things that will go against him. Okay. Yeah. All right. And let me touch on something which Dr. Danko said.
I'll let you hold on, please. Sorry. Right. We have Noble Crosby Annan, who is at the Greater Accra Voting Center at the moment, and he also has some updates for us. Crosby, what can you tell us?
Right. Bella, thank you so much for allowing us to join us. Here at the Greater Accra Regional Voting Center, the process that began at exactly 9 o'clock, I must tell you, has been extremely smooth. We understand close to 50 delegates have voted already. The number we're expecting at the end of the day is 72. 72 delegates are expected to vote at the center. Already we've seen some members of parliament join us here at the voting center, along also some ministers as well. We've seen the Foreign Affairs Minister. It's also seen the Member of Parliament for Ayawaso Liga and Sarah Malasan also seen each of that. As well as some more MPs have already been here. They were supposed to cast their votes here, so they came and they did that. We've also cited the party's national chairman of the party has also been here to supervise the election, plus the presence of the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Kote. He has also been here. He came here.
All right, thank you so much, Noble Crosby Annan. But also, Alan Chematin's Director of Communications, Yabua Bing Asamoah, says that they will reject the Northeast votes because their agents have been reportedly assaulted. Roland will give us the updates.
Agent is in the hospital, and they were showing the vote because they were voting for the vice president. So they've been asked to show the vote. If they add those results, what would you do? If they add the results, it's obviously a public sham. That's why I'm telling the entire world, including His Excellency the President, to put his foot down. Because if we all make rules and we decide that the rules will not be enforced, the rules are for the benefit of the public and the candidates, and yet on the ground they will not be enforced, force is applied, impunity is applied, and nobody is able to do anything about it, then the result is a sham.
But some can say that, your request is a bit far-fetched. The matter could be easily resolved. Why?
In what way will the matter be resolved? If the ballots that were showed have gone into the box, how will the matter be resolved? The ballots that are being showed have been put in the box. How will the matter be resolved? The rules say that any ballot that is showed is invalid. That is what the rules say. Any ballot that is showed is invalid. So if you are voting systematically and showing it systematically, and the EC are looking on, the police are looking on, and our agent is assaulted for protesting, then it's grounds enough to reject the entire result.
When are you foreseeing the defeat? That is why
it is not about it. There is nothing like defeat in this. It is a selection. It's a mere selection. We are enforcing the rules. Margin of what victory for the. There's no victory when you select 5 people. Where is the victory? You are selecting 5 people. We are talking victory. Those who need it to demonstrate their emptiness are the ones who are pursuing victory. Those who need it to demonstrate emptiness are the ones who are pursuing victory. There's nothing about victory in this. What it is that the party is peacefully selecting 5 people who will go to the true election. There's only one true election, November 4th. But to begin to assault agents at this time and to begin to flout the rules with impunity means that the President, His Excellency, the party leadership who are in charge of the election and the vice president's faction, I'll call them a faction because they are behaving like a faction, ought to beware. The agent is in hospital.
Who is assaulting you?
He's reported the police. And he's been assaulted. He's in the hospital in the northeast.
By who?
The reports will come out. He's gone to the police. The police have given the hospital form, and the statement to the police will be made public in due time.
So
we have reported.
If that's the case,
we have reported.
If that's the case, why are you quick to call on the vice president to put his feet down?
Yes, because they are doing it on his behalf. It is his vote that they are showing. They are not showing Alan Martin's vote. It is the vice president's vote they are showing to confirm that they voted for him.
And that's the communications director for Honorable Alan Kojo Chairman Ting Ayao Boabia Samoa. And he's making some very serious allegations there. Roland Walker will give us some insights into that. Roland, do you have any updates on this alleged assault that took place in the Northeast? Roland, can you hear me? Hello, Roland? Okay, well, we'll try and reconnect with Roland Walker. I'm not sure he can hear us at the moment.